coming to talk to somebody who was out in the wilderness, sackcloths and ashes, probably living like a hermit, and has now returned to, I'll talk to you about that in a second, now returned to the champagne lifestyle, but I'll talk about that in just a second. The Air New Zealand Coro Club lifestyle is the New Zealand First candidate, Mark Patterson, New Zealand First MP, and he joins us now. Mark, first of all, congratulations. Well done personally on your return to Parliament.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, no, we're delighted to be back and very grateful for the support that we've had by probably in the wash up a couple of 100,000 New Zealanders that have entrusted us with their vote.
Yes, they have. And that's the word, trust. I know people, in fact, I talked to a dear family member of mine yesterday who had voted National all her life but voted New Zealand First on Saturday on the basis that she thought that you would be needed to make sure that there was definitely a change in government. How many people do you think thought like her? I'm aware of now 3 people who either switched their vote from ACT or National to New Zealand First on the basis that you would be needed and that you were, and if you weren't there, things could get hairy. Did you pick up some of that over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, there's certainly a little bit of that. There's obviously a myriad of issues why people vote the way they vote, but yeah, that was certainly, MMP elections are always close, despite what the pundits try to say, and you know, we've always been in insurance policy against the extremes of both sides, so I think some of that played out in this election as well.
The other thing that we noticed too, and we started doing comparisons of the policies over the last couple of weeks, Mark, was how much actually you've got in common with the ACT Party. Does that surprise you or not?
No, well, I think they've, you know, obviously we haven't been in Parliament for the last 3 years, so they've had a platform to fill the void in areas around co-governance and the like, which we've always been strong on. You know, Winston's built a career on pushing back against that sort of thing, and, you know, that just had that platform that we didn't. So, but in some other areas, economic areas, for example, we would have a different philosophy, and, you know, they're much more libertarian than we are. You know, we're more a conservative party, so there is differences, but there's certainly, you know, around things like law and order, governance or whatever, quite a lot of similarities in our positions.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing, isn't it? You're a conservative party with a small c. That means you're anti-woke to a large extent. That was a good part of your appeal too, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, to be fair, Labor and the Greens and the Maori Party made it pretty easy to take that position because there was some pretty extreme stuff coming out of there, and, you know, it's like getting fish in a barrel, really. I mean, they just got well ahead of popular opinion or mainstream opinion on a lot of issues, and, you know, just interesting listening to your previous caller. I mean, I think he summed up a lot of those issues quite succinctly.
Now, I'm not going to talk to you about the coalition because there's no point. But I think Winston's talked about Friday, November the 3rd, and I think that will be important. Obviously, it's good to see that there is communication between all of the parties, or certainly between National and New Zealand First at the moment. Tell me, just quickly on that before we go back and do a bit of history, but I'm interested if you've all met personally or by Zoom, all the new members, all 8 of you.
Winston's not in Wellington yet, the rest of us are, and of course, you know, coming back into Parliament, there's quite a bit of stuff to do in terms of just the nuts and bolts of, for the new members getting inducted in and just learning the ropes and where everything is and the like, but, you know, the nuts and bolts of getting your security passes and, you know, all that stuff. So there's a lot of just functional stuff that needs to happen. In the first instance, Winston's had a couple of days off, and, you know, he deserves it. He actually hasn't had a day off since the 7th of February. So, you know, he's given it everything. He just needs a bit of room to contemplate and get himself fighting fit for what's coming in the talks.
Oh, listen, I'm on his side. One of the things that stunned me was that everybody was in Wellington yesterday on Monday, and I'm going, oh, bugger off. Give these guys a break. I'm surprised that they got you there on a Monday. Why didn't they give you a couple of days?
Well, I think in terms of the parliamentary service, it's a big changeover. I think there's 40 new MPs or somewhere around about that, plus 8 of us that are returning in the New Zealand First caucus. So they've got logistically quite a big job to turn things over.
But you can't have an office yet, though, Mark, because there'll still be offices at Parliament that are occupied by outgoing MPs, yeah?
Well, we've got I've set up a special office for us, Michael, so there you go. So we have actually got an office, even if it might be temporary.
Oh, are you in Bowen House?
No, we're actually in the Treasury building. I've set a temporary office up in
What, at One the Terrace?
Yeah.
On One the Terrace?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's all 40 of you, all the new MPs?
No, that's just the New Zealand First wing.
Right. Okay.
My initial reaction was that it was an affront to democracy that we were being shunted out to the terrace, but they're actually quite good officers, so I'll pull back on that.
Yes, I know. When we got put into the Bowen building, were you in the Bowen House building, which is that big, it's about 13, 14 stories. It's adjacent to Parliament. And when the new backbench MPs were put over there initially, everybody said, oh gosh, we feel away. And then once they moved, we said, no, we don't want to move. This is the place to be. And cabinet ministers started saying that they wanted their cabinet offices there rather than the Beehive.
Yeah, well, the Beehive, as you well know, is not a particularly functional building. It's obviously a reasonably striking design, but it's not functional. So Bowen House is actually a better office space. But alas, it's of course earthquake damaged now. So.
Oh, really? Is Bowen House earthquake damaged?
Yeah. Well, it's not so much damage, but it doesn't fit the criteria of the building code. So it's been strengthened. So there's no one in there at all at the moment.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, that's going to make accommodation. Listen, last night, mate, I saw on television they interviewed, I think, Dan Rosewarne or Roseware. I'm sorry, I never knew he was an MP until I saw him for the first time last night, and he said, "Oh, it's brutal," because he's just lost his seat. You see, I think he's a list MP. He might have lost his seat somewhere as well. He said, oh, it's brutal. He said, they wouldn't even let us into Coro Club anymore. They've cancelled my Coro Club pass. And I thought, what an extraordinary admission. What do you get as a new MP? So you get immediate access to the Coro Club. Do you still get taxi chits, free taxis in Wellington?
Yeah, you get a taxi from the airport, and obviously at the start, that was part of the induction yesterday, setting all that up so you could get a taxi card and the like. But your heart bleeds for poor Dan.
Exactly. And he said, I've gone from champagne, I think it was his word, to living in the basement or something like that. And my wife looked at me last night and said, yeah, he really shouldn't have been an MP, should he? The accoutrements, I think a few people get attached to them, don't they?
Yeah, and I think it's a bit like the Wellington bubble effect a little bit. You've got to be careful not to get too swept up in those sort of things. And and certainly, even if you are, you shouldn't be saying them out loud.
No. Oh, that was extraordinary. I watched it yesterday. Listen, you've been in the wilderness for the last 3 years, so let me take you back 3 years. Election night 2020. You're sitting there. It's an abject performance by New Zealand First. It's almost as bad as, it is as bad functionally as for the National Party at the time. You got 2.6% of the vote, I think. I want to take you back to that night. Did you ever perceive or conceive in the days after the last election that you'd be sitting where you are now?
Not really. I mean, it was a bit of shell shock, I guess, when you're in that situation. And I mean, we knew it was coming, I guess. The polls had certainly suggested that for a fair way out. So, but we also did realise it was COVID election, so there was other factors at play, and we had a really deep soul search as a party. I mean, the board particularly did an incredible job of getting around the membership and actually having a decent kind of cathartic look at all aspects of the party and where we'd gone wrong, what members were really thinking, and taking that on board. So, I guess that was the basis for which we kind of recommitted to having another go, that we felt we had an important part in the political spectrum, that we had people that were prepared to commit to having another crack, and then you've got the basis to build upon from there.